This is Self-Care Sunday. If you're with me, thank you for joining me. I'm trying a new setup this time. I used to use Wirecast. Holy shit, this is heavy. Trying a couple new things today. If you don't know, Self-Care Sunday is our time on the internet to discover and take care of ourselves. um, and I'm a podcaster, artist, entrepreneur. I don't know. I'm Zach. I do a lot of things, and it's just a joy to have you with me. This is Livestream, a new software that I'm testing for live streaming. I used to use Wirecast, but I think their pricing is predatory, and I got a great deal with Vimeo's subscription that includes this software. And I think I can do crazier things than I ever could do before. Like stream simultaneously live with just a couple clicks. To be fair, I think I could do this with Wirecast, but Vimeo just makes it ever so slightly easier. So I'm streaming on Twitter. I'm not sure I'm going to keep this up on Twitter. I feel like maybe YouTube is a more personal platform and Twitter is a more professional platform, but and maybe we keep Self-Care Sunday to the YouTube. I don't know. We're just going to figure this out live. So I'm just popping into YouTube to see if this thing is live so I can pull up the chat. I will be interacting with the chat over on YouTube. So forgive me while I figure this out. Okie dokie. In the meantime, I'm just going to come down over here. Whoa. These headphones are taking me for a ride. Leave that right there and come over here. Oh, yay! It sure does look like I'm live. And it looks like there's a bunch of friendly faces. So let's hang out here by little Tiffany. Tiffany's my cat, if you haven't met her yet. She is 14 to 18 years old. We actually don't know. Such as with a rescue. She is a many times rescued cat. She was originally adopted by some man that didn't want a female cat for whatever reason, and was then adopted by Julia Sheldon, my good friend and a beautiful artist, who passed several years ago. And when she passed, I got to take her home with me. Yeah, it's been a blessing to have a cat. She also has a ton of health problems, and I don't know, one of my favorite things about having a cat is the reminder to look away from the screen, because I think more than anything in my life, this little love critter shows me how I'm just staring into a thin panel, spending so much of my time just absorbed in thought and in hustling in virtual environments. And it's just nice to come back to reality with this little furry critter. I see somebody's asking the question, does Tiffy follow you around wherever you go? The answer is most of the time, yes. And it's super, super cute. She also, her chronic sinus condition causes her to sneeze a lot. So I apologize if we get some boogers in the lens over here. You're not right, Tiffany. Isn't that right? Oh, autofocus. You're not seeing that stuff. Okay, great. Amazing. So let me just shout out some beautiful humans that are here. We got Jess G, good afternoon. Lorado, Raging Artist. Victoria Frey, heyo. Maddie, hiya. Crystal Tiny Falcon, Niam M. Diana Caton, it's Rhyme, Nadia P, Dimitri Silver, so great to have you guys here, and so many people, Caspian C, Tree Kid, Eve Sarkadi, welcome. It is a joy to have you here, and to everybody who's watching this after we've gone live, welcome as well. Hope you're enjoying this on whatever day you happen to be watching it, and invite you to do one thing today that would be for you taking care of yourself. I see Diana Caton. My cats are staying with my parents right now, and I miss them. Aw, you can always live vicariously through Tiffy and I. better shot of our good girl. Um, yeah, I have a very, very light agenda today. Nothing too crazy for Self Care Sunday. Got a couple updates that I'd love to get into, and then a question that I got from a lovely internet a person through the internet. I don't know how to describe these, just good people reaching out with good questions. That's like the big thing that I have for today is just talking about navigating a maelstrom of ideas, sort of the theme of the question. We'll get to that eventually. Oh, Tree Kid, that's I've been thinking about you a lot. If that's not weird, things have been wild, and I've been re-listening to Wolf, and all of it's making me think more about self-care. That's super awesome to hear. I don't know. I feel like I put too much stuff on the internet to think that it's weird that you might be thinking about me, and I don't know. I also like. I don't know. I think thinking about self-care is independent of a person, and I don't know. As somebody who grew up with Mister Rogers, um, I feel like I've come back around to appreciating the silence and the contemplation and just the peace and sort of love to risk sounding like a total cliche that he sort of represented and promoted. He's been a real source of inspiration as a role model lately. And I've been doing a lot of reflecting sort of on creation and what I'm creating. Oh man, the screen with like all the tabs that I was going to pull up is over there. But now that we're set up here with Tiffy, I'm not sure that I want to leave it. Um, I guess if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Oh, it looks like Anna M. and a bunch of people have recently seen the documentary that he's in for the first time, which is phenomenal. I love that. It's available on HBO Go or Now, whichever you may have, which is definitely a great thing. Ain't nothing professional about Twitter, says Mizraim. That's funny. Yeah, I'm curious. So, yeah, if you are on Twitter, I'm not sure I'm going to see your message because I don't have it up, but I can pull it up. I have my handy-dandy grandma's Chromebook here, which is surprisingly useful. I think you can get them for like $70 now, and I think it's way more useful than a tablet, and it's perfect. It fits in my bag. Why don't we start with some updates? And I don't need to pull up the screen share there. I can just pull it up on this. Some things I'm excited to share with you guys that I've been working on. I guess, welcome to my ADD brain. I'm like, probably should start with like, what are you going to get if you hang out for the whole episode? We're going to do a meditation. We always end with a meditation and sort of a mindfulness exercise, which we can go into. We'll get there. We're going to answer this question. Obviously, if you guys have other questions, and then I'll just share a couple updates and thoughts as we go. Yeah, I have a new episode of a podcast I've been working on. If you haven't heard, I've been working on a podcast called The Internet 3.0 with a cool startup called Blockstack that is building a decentralized internet, or a new internet for decentralized apps. So basically, like the future Facebooks and Googles of the world that won't own all of our data and be really creepy are getting built over on Blockstack, and I'm making a podcast with them, and this is overexposed, it looks like, but I can lower the screen brightness, I think. This is a podcast episode that I did with the creator of BitTorrent. So if you ever downloaded anything on BitTorrent, I got to do an interview with Bram Cohen, who created the BitTorrent network, which is pretty nuts and really exciting to talk to him and hear about what he's doing. And if you don't know anything about cryptocurrency and are interested in that and like figuring out what Bitcoin and all that stuff is, we talk about it. I think it's accessible for people who've never heard anything about it before and are just interested in technology and the internet. I'm proud of that. and glad to get to share it with y'all. So that is one thing that's going on. Oh my God, Raging Artist, glad you're back and that your hand isn't bleeding anymore. Um, oh, Jake Nichols, that's amazing. That's like so awesome to hear that. You work in tech recruitment and you think it's a must listen. That's freaking incredible to hear. Um, oh, I got a question about how's the Alpha Smarter? More on that in a minute. It's really, really good. And will you see Captain Marvel? Undoubtedly. I'm not sure I'll catch it in theaters purely for time's sake, but we'll figure that out. Oh, Benjamin Theodore, that's awesome that you're going to keep this open in the background. I see a lot of talk about D&D, and I am excited that that's happening here. I just wrapped up my participation on a show called Taking Initiative, which I guess is another update that I didn't even plan to make. This is great. Taking Initiative. Taking Initiative is a podcast that is a D&D actual play. I think it's role playing. I lose the sort of specific distinctions between. There's like lots of different games and things, but I'm pretty sure this is the actual play podcast with a bit of audio drama flair. Taking Initiative podcast, and I play a villain, and it's really fun. And I just wrapped that up. And as a non-player character, I feel like at a certain point I was like, oh, it'd be so fun to live in this world and make decisions in this world. So I've been like thinking about maybe getting involved in that because I've never played. I've only really done board games and stuff like that. So exciting to see you guys talking about this stuff. I've not played D&D, and I don't know what any of the classes. I know some of the classes, but yeah, I'd be interested to get into that. The thing that I've really been sort of dealing with is not for the first time. I gave myself more work than I'd ever handled before, and I think I nearly overdid it. While I was working with my clients as normal for my freelance business, I was also sort of in the background since November, December, been working on 2 online courses. One of them is, you may have heard the I'm making 2 courses. One of them is in a partnership with Gabrielle and Sarah of Wolf 359, where we're making an audio drama like storytelling course. And that link is course.fearofpublicshame.com, and there's like 3 little sample videos at the bottom that you can check out. And it's just been a ball to like take what we learned at Wesleyan, making in film school together, making Wolf 359, and then making online courses at a company called 1 Month, which the 3 of us worked at for like 2 years. And just getting to make our own online course was incredibly fun, and we're still in it. We're still editing. We're almost done. We're so excited to get it out. It has been a behemoth in a way that we planned for it to be like a little bit of a minnow. And I'm super proud of it, but it's like doing that on top of the clients, and then on top of, I also started a course called Cold Email for small businesses and startups. I forget the exact title, but I worked with a former teacher from that company 1 month, Evan Kimbrell, to make a cold email course, which is one of the ways that I generate business as a freelancer, and make my way through this world is by trying to send thoughtful emails to people who would want them about services that I can provide, from Project Uplift, mental health awareness stuff, to video production and live streaming and podcast creation. And let me see if I can pull it up here. Udemy.com. I think it's now featured. Like, we had a really good launch this week. We just launched it on Tuesday. It's incredibly exciting. to have something live, especially after just working week after week, like 7 days a week. I just finally hit this point where I'm like, I need a break. So it's incredibly healthy to finish something finally and have it live, because I feel like there's so many projects that I'm just constantly working on, and then to like see it go from beginning to middle to end is really gratifying, and not something that happens as often as starting and middling. Um, so so yeah, somewhere on Udemy there is a course, cold email, Evan Kimbrell maybe. Um, I've been having trouble finding this through search. This is like, I got to figure out a way to control that computer from this laptop. I know I can do it, but I just didn't set it up before we went live. So here we are. Yeah, it was super fun to just like sit at this desk this crazy table that I made and make this course, which is like, oh, let me see if you can see this. Boop, boo. So this is like my teaching live streaming table. We have like, whoa, let me tighten that off. So like that is a teleprompter, so I can like read teleprompting text, scrolling, and also switch it to see my face, so I can like make sure I'm making eye contact with the viewer. Then those are two lights, and I have like a sort of double monitor. This is an iron, and I don't use that for live streaming. That is because I needed to iron a shirt this week. That's sort of an audio interface unit, so I can plug in the micro. It's just like everything lives on that table, and usually have a boom mic, so I don't have to wear a lav when I'm in the shot. But yeah, this light lights the back of the room over here. Whoa, uh-oh, uh-oh. Are we back? I think we cut out. No, we're back. Um, so yeah, it was just really fun to, after years of being like, I'm going to make an online course. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a teacher on the internet. And like, maybe that is a way that I can sort of balance my my desire to do things that may never pay money, like make art, with doing something that is like of some kind of legitimate, honest service, of like teaching people how to do stuff that would maybe make a difference for them. And I know that making audio dramas with Gabrielle and Sarah and sending cold emails for my business are two things that I think people want to learn, that I think I can teach well. And so I don't know. I'm terrified of bad reviews. I'm like, honestly, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done to just like focus on these two products and do all the writing and the shooting and the editing. But I think the biggest thing that I learned is the value and the gift of incredible partners, and finding incredible people, and like cultivating like relationships over time and not forcing anything, and then sort of like continuing to look for opportunities, and sort of be encouraging at the right moments. And I couldn't have done this without the support of my friends and family, to just make it through this like kind of crushingly busy period of my life. And it's really nice to see a light at the end of the tunnel. Of course, I feel like there's a train at the end of that because it's tax season, and so I got to go right back to work. But I do see like a long weekend coming up that I'm super excited about, sometime at the end of March, beginning of April. And yeah, I think that the reality is I'm not an expert at self-care, and I'm guilty of not taking care of myself as often as I think anybody typically is. But I don't know, this format, like coming back to hang out with you guys every month, sort of is a nice reminder and accountability mechanism for me to like remember to take a break, because you know, this stream would be dishonest if I showed up burnt out every single time. And I think that's one of the reasons why I had to stop doing this weekly, was because that was burning me out as much as I want to do this every week. And I see a future where, as earning a living becomes increasingly aligned with just sort of the passion projects that I have, sort of like Wolf 359 and like this here at Self Care Sunday, um, the more I'll be able to show up in these spaces um, with consistency and integrity, sort of across the board. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I feel like I've been learning a lot about myself and asking some really hard questions about what it is I really want and how I want to live. And you know, it's been a crash course working on this internet show to learn about history, and I've been sort of, aside from all the work, indulging just general curiosity that may never be monetizable, um, learning about history and philosophy, and just thinking along with some great minds through the medium of long form audio and video, because there's just so many like hour plus long interviews with people that I've admired through time. That's really exciting to get to check out. Not the least of which is like uh, Mr. Rogers. But yeah. Boo boo boo. I'm jumping back in the chat. Oh shit, stuff is held for review. I don't really know how to. Starting projects is the worst part 100%, says Diana Caton. I think I have a much harder time like finishing, and it's like starting isn't the problem. I get excited about things and start things all the time. It's seeing them through that's always the challenge. Just like in movies, like the second act is always the hardest thing to write. Um, until the ending, but if you start with the ending, it's a little easier. So yeah, I don't know. Um, I definitely am feeling present to and humbled by my blind spots, of which I have so many. And I think the thing that I'm grateful to my parents for, and it connectedly to growing up around this program called Landmark, I just feel like I've always had it in my head that I will always have more blind spots than not. And that kind of sucks at one level because it's embarrassing, but it's also uh, enlivening to know that all there is to do is just keep learning and sort of continue to be open. Um, how did you get into podcasting? Somebody asked. Uh, I see somebody asking about a Self Care Sunday Discord server, and I am interested to see what you guys come up with, and I fully support y'all creating spaces that you want to be in. I am hesitant to host a space like that. I tried a forum, and I don't think that I have the kind of time I would want to dedicate to being in a space like that. And really, yeah, I think at some point I would love to create a more private community space than sort of streaming on platforms like YouTube and Twitter. But yeah, I think everything comes in time, and I think I jumped the gun on that, and appreciate everybody coming along for that experiment. Um, let's see. I got into podcasting because I wanted to get into voiceover. I did commercial acting, voice acting, for a fair amount of time, um, and it wasn't really going as fast as I wanted it to in terms of booking work. And what I was reading was just mind numbing after a certain point. Like most of it is just selling sandwiches and um, stuff that people don't really need. Video game work would be really exciting, but there's only so many opportunities for that in New York. Um, let's see. So I was just gunning it for commercial voice acting and getting kind of tired of that hustle. And all of a sudden, at that moment, I got a message from a friend on Facebook being like, "Yo, Zax, get at Gabrielle," because Gabrielle had asked for a voice actor to do an audio drama with, and um, and that was Wolf 359. And so I basically shook him down until he was willing to send me a Bible, show Bible, and then eventually a pilot because I thought the Bible was great, but I'd have to read an episode. Um, and then we sort of took it from there. And, you know, within the next year, we had a show. Um, and so I think a lot of it was just uh, asking around. And fortunately, a good portion of it required the privilege of having money to pay for courses for the commercial work, where I got most of my training to work with microphones and to work the mic and to sort of find my own voice, and not try to sound like somebody else, but just try to like get out of the way, trying to please or meet an expectation, but just to talk like me. All of that was paid courses, and so I spent probably over $1,500 taking courses and paying for my reel uh, before I got any paid work in voiceover. It's not entirely true because I got sneaky. Ooh, sorry, Tiffy. I got sneaky paid work early by being a video maker, and doing the voiceovers for videos that my clients couldn't afford a real voice actor for, a real voice actor, and and that I got to do because I had the equipment. Because you know, a combination of saving and being born to the right family, um, and you know, uh, I just I think there's an interesting conversation going on these days between the various different podcasts and videos that I listen to, where I, there's a conversation about privilege right now that I feel uh, deeply like sort of involved in at some level, because I'm so present to the lotteries that I won in my birth, um, and so present to the riggedness of the sort of economy that we've all been born into, but also the opportunities that are just like abound and the possibility that is tremendous, um, in the world. But yeah, it's also scary and depressing when you look at the news too much. I don't know. That's why I'm glad to have Self Care Sunday to just hang out and not worry about all this stuff. Something about coming together just feels good. Um, blows me away that there's, you know, 32 of y'all just around the world just down to hang out together. Really feels awesome. Um, somebody has an interesting idea for an audio drama podcast, but I'm not sure how to really start it though. Um, interesting. I think that the the only thing to do to start it is to start, and that at a certain level means starting with the writing, unless you're going to do something mockumentary style. Um, and if you don't know how to start the writing, then you know, I think the game would be to, I think, come up with give yourself a bunch of different options for how you could start writing. Um, and it at some level, like Anne Lamott says, one of my favorite writing teachers, it's just word after word, and you just have to create time and just put one word after another, and shut up that little part of your voice or ignore that part of your voice that goes, this is bad, don't do it, it's just bad and nobody's gonna like it. And you just kind of have to mute that thing, and keep going with it. And at a certain point, you'll have something to read to other people and share it and get feedback. But I've learned working with Gabrielle and Sarah, that there's a lot of value in learning about the creative processes of the people that you admire, not to copy them, but just to see what other people have done and thought through, to take what might work for you and try it for yourself and just see if it works, and then throw away anything that isn't working. Wow, Tiffy's just like, I'm done with you, Valenti. All right, well, we'll go back over here so I can show you some other stuff. Whoa, man, I need to rejigger this thing, but check this out. This is my new sort of tripod situation. I wonder if you can see that in the mirror over here. So I needed something that is like heavy and grounded, and also pivots. So I have this like metal ball that will let me pivot the camera. And then this, like, I want to cut down this piece of wood because it's a little too big. But I got this metal piece coming out that's good, and I have some weights to hold it down so that it doesn't tilt over. The good thing about the size of the base is that it's super sturdy, but it's also really heavy. I'm like just carrying this piece of furniture around. Whew. Fitting it in on the desk. Okay. Trying not to knock everything over. Okay. Maybe get some more light on this scene. I don't know if that's any brighter. Whoops. Boo boo boo. That's a little better. Okie dokie. Yeah. Just want to show you guys a couple things. Let's see. I guess while we're here. Whoop. So I don't know if you've heard, but I'm working on a new show with Gabrielle and Sarah called No Bad Ideas. This is just like totally changing the topic. I've been having a freaking blast making this show with them. And we just get together, sometimes with a guest. We did this episode with Todd Vanderwerf this past week. And we have a new episode every Monday. And basically, Gabrielle, Sarah, and I, the writers and producers from Wolf 359, tell stories, but we do it in this game show format where one of us basically has found a terrible idea from the internet. And then we pitch it to each other. Like, one of us presents the idea, and then the others of us pitch it into a movie or a book or a TV series or something like that, which is just a joy. It's just super stupid and silly, and just a fun way to stay sharp on storytelling. And I've learned so much in a combination of making this show and making the storytelling course that we're doing, the audio drama storytelling course that we're doing. I just feel like I've learned a ton of like techniques and just ways of thinking about the problems that storytelling like presents, like just in this core of like storytelling is a form of telepathy. Like, I know one day we're gonna have like computer chips in our somebody's gonna. I'm probably not gonna get that done, but at some point we may all like be able to connect directly through the internet, mind to mind. But until then, we already have telepathy through language. It's imperfect, and I think it's gonna be interesting if we ever reach a point where we can just like be each other in a way. But and like I think that at some level, like that might already be true. We're just not sensitive to it, but that's a whole it's a whole other stream of thought of this. But yeah, I guess storytelling is the best way that we can. I mean, it's how we create reality in addition to how we like entertain ourselves and communicate ideas and maybe discover ourselves individually. And it's just this beautiful art and science, and so yeah, it's just been fun to get to stretch our muscles with No Bad Ideas. If you can't tell, I'm really excited about the audio drama course that we're working on. There's some stupid animations I've been making, but yeah, No Bad Ideas is live. NoBadIdeasPodcast.com. You can check that out, and we actually have this extra silly thing going on where on Patreon, when we hit $150 per thing, like per week, per creation, per episode, we're going to start writing one of the ideas that we've done in the game. So, like, for instance, we came up with this crazy sort of Stepford-esque movie idea. In this episode, like, we might actually, like, write that full script. If we hit this goal, we'll start with the first, I think we'll have 30 days to write the first 15 pages, and we'll keep going from there to write the whole thing until we hit this goal of $500 per thing, when we'll actually do a new audio drama miniseries, which is incredibly thrilling that we might do something like time bombs. If you heard timebombs.show. Um, so yeah, there's just like a bunch of stuff. I don't want to bore people. Also, like, tell me if I'm just saying the same things that I always say, and like, I don't know. I just don't want to be boring. Um, uh, I also like I'm saying that, and I'm like, I am just noticing the degree to which I am constantly trying to be a people pleaser, even without thinking about it. It's like this unconscious thing that I think has been conditioned over, I don't know how, maybe even longer than my lifetime. But yeah. Anyway, um, so here we go. Let's see. What did I want to show you guys next? I guess maybe this is a good time to switch gears to this question that I got from Nicole. Thank you, Nicole, for this great question. Um, for You're not an artist, you're not a writer, but you always have ideas flowing and things that you think are wonderful. So my issue is it's hard to see from an outsider's perspective. How do you decide if your idea is worth building? For example, I have a idea for a short story, maybe longer, but I'm not entirely sure that it's something anyone would even care about. How do I reassure myself? Um, Thank you for your time, and I mean, it is my pleasure. Uh, I am feeling these days like, I don't know. There's this quote from this movie that left a mark on me. I forget if it's Cloud Atlas, which has its problems, but it's our lives are not our own, and in that way, I feel like yeah, you know, you don't need to thank me for my time, but I appreciate your positivity. Uh, but I guess the point that I'm figuring out for myself in this question, because I always have ideas flowing myself, and I'm never sure that they're worth anybody's time. And I'm sensitive to the opportunity cost of if I work on one thing, I'm not working on five other things. Um, and so yeah, so I think that I think that the idea here is I'm just like I can only speak for myself really. And I think I feel a great deal of pressure. I put a lot of pressure on myself to make things that will be successful, but I haven't gone into what success really is. I just have a, a vague sense of what others have told me. Like it'll make a lot of money, like it'll get millions of views, like it will be lauded as a genius piece of work. And you know, I think of Hamilton as like the apex of our culture right now, and at some level, it's this incredible intersection of mediums and this important like historical sort of like reframing. In some ways, it's not so historical, but it's incredibly inspiring, and it's just the kind of thing that makes me want to make art. And also makes me think I'm completely inequipped to make art because I'll never be as much of a genius as Lin-Manuel Miranda and friends. But I think that that's a trap. And having uh, heard a little bit of his journey to where he is today, it sounds like it was a willingness to indulge that pull, that tug as an artist to learn and to take risks to create and just try stuff out and not worry about what it might become someday and not bank any sense of success or accomplishment in that pursuit on necessarily like dollar value or critical reception. And I say that with like, on the other hand, like Donald Glover's voice in my mind being like, as an artist, it's important to quantify your worth just in the context of our world where, you do have rent to pay, I imagine. Maybe if you don't, please tell me where you live. um, and yeah, and so I think I love that. Jake Nichols says, I think it's important to embrace the suck. Yeah, I guess the, I think the idea is to, like, I'm not an artist, I'm not a writer. Like, maybe this is a good place to get into, like, what are we as individuals? Are we individuals more than we are, um, one human family? Um, and like, how individual are our experiences, or are is there something universal in every individual? And I think fundamentally, like, we're all made out of the same stuff the universe is, and so I think the separation is more in our perception than anything. And so I think you can trap yourself by being like, I'm not an artist, I'm not a writer. I don't know what to call myself half the time, and I'm incredibly allergic to labels, because I feel boxed in being an artist or an entrepreneur, or calling myself a this or a that. But all of these things are things that you can do as a human being. So I wouldn't say you're not an artist, and I also wouldn't force that identity on you if it doesn't feel right. But I can see how you might then get stuck in exploring and expressing the commitment of your ideas down to paper or whatever medium would work for you. Basically, I guess I'm just saying, get in the sandbox and make a mess. And don't worry about your identity in it all, and don't worry about the payoff. And also, like, make sure you have the energy you need to do the work. Like, I find that I often shoot myself in the foot by not sleeping the way I know to sleep, because if I don't get more, 7 hours or more on a consistent basis, I'm just shooting myself in the foot before I start a race. Same with like hydration. Thank you, Kathleen. Um, New water bottle makes a difference. It looks like Jake is being really helpful. I'm just going to read his stuff. Um, if you're here, you're a fan of Zach's work, and the stuff you've seen uh, is after he practiced for 4 years in school. And on his, yeah, absolutely. There's no such thing as an overnight success, also. And I think that the whole idea of success is one that we don't go deeply into. Where I think if you do something that brings you joy purely for its own sake, and just carve out time to write down your ideas with no expectation of it ever being a masterpiece, it can't go badly. Um, Diana Caton, I'm coming for you with the sleep hydration thing. Oh boy. Pleasure to be family. Um, so one of the things that I do, for capturing the overwhelming flow of ideas, is I use this little thing that I hacked for myself, this little book, or box that I put these note cards in, and I have a couple different categories, just five. To do items, observations, ideas, agendas, and media. And those things are broad enough categories that they kind of capture everything that goes through my head. And then at the end of a month, I'll just go through that pile and digitize anything I want to save, put up anything on the mirror that I should like really have in front of my face, and feel free to just like burn with the rest. And just instituting that little bit of process and giving myself that kind of a tool helps me get out of my head and out of the, like, it's hard to think when you're in the middle of the river trying to like keep your head above water. it's much more peaceful when you can sort of sit on the, the bank and watch the water flow by and just see sort of what's in there that might be worthy of investing more time in, or yeah, just like process has been a big thing that I've been thinking a lot about lately. Um, this is so great. It's so inspiring to hear um, hear you guys weigh in on these things and support each other. Um, and this community, I think, has been one of the number one. Yeah, just like one of my mentors and friends, mentors. So I work with this lady um, who's become a very good friend of mine, called Lynn Preston, who's a therapist and a practitioner of this thing called focusing, which was started by a guy named Gene Genlin. And Genlin says that we don't exist as individuals and that all there is the interaction. And in that sense, I just feel like a full, fuller, more complete self at some level in our community, um, and just appreciate that. And I've just been thinking a lot about community, and especially as things seem to be getting sort of more darkly tribal in the world. I've been looking at this distinction between community and tribe, and trying to see what maybe overlaps and what is maybe distinct, um, so that we can continue to work together to make life on this planet work for everybody. Um, it seems like such an impossible, naive, cliche goal, but yeah, I don't know. Um, it feels right to pursue. Um, so I guess we can end with a meditation. um, is there anything that anybody feels like they're particularly uh, dealing with, or looking to get some space on? Um, I don't know if there's any themes that you guys would want to sort of focus on, but I think maybe we can, for lack of a subscription recommendation. Sorry, I just saw something come up for review. Um, I'll let you show your email, but also be careful doing that in public. But also, life is risk at some level. Um, let's see. Dysphoria and rocky friendships. Just broke off with a 6-year friend because I was honest with her. Feels weird. Um, hmm. Um, so I guess why don't we? I'm gonna sit down. Oh, up, 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 up. Jesus. See if this works. I think maybe we'll bring this down a ways. Hmm. I have it on my desk chair, so I'm just like trying to push it down. Boop boo. Alrighty. So make sure this is in focus. I would recommend just like finding a comfortable seat. Feel free to lie down if you want, but I think sitting may be a little bit more productive, but feel free to not need to be productive and just relax. Um, Start by just checking in with what it is like to be you right now. It's so easy as we get absorbed into our screens to forget we have a body and to let our breath get shallower than it actually can be. I think if you look at me sometimes while I'm working on a screen, I'd look like a serial killer because I'm just like, I just forget I have a face with an expression and I can forget to smile. If you want to take a couple deep breaths, that is perfectly acceptable, maybe even recommended. I like to breathe in through my nose, down into my belly, letting it expand really big. And then exhale, squeezing out the belly button towards the spine. So like you can even hold for a second or two at the top and bottom of the breath, just like breathing in, filling the belly, holding, and then exhaling, squeezing the belly button towards the spine all the way out, and holding empty for a second. You can do that as many times as feels comfortable before you resume a normal breath. Another thing you can try that I find to be helpful when you're feeling a little bit tight or needing to let go is to actually squeeze everything tight and really get everything squeezed and hold it for like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then let go. And I find that doing that a couple times can be really, really helpful to just, our bodies hold tension that we become blind to because it's so tense all the time that it just feels like normal. And the tightening and then letting go exercise is one of the few that I've found that shows me where it's tight that I didn't notice. Alexander technique is also helpful for that, but I'm not an Alexander technique teacher, so we won't do that now. And if you notice your thoughts are taking you away, not a problem. You can just bring your attention gently back to include physical sensations. You don't need to try to stop your thoughts or try to have a clear mind. This is a process of making peace. So if you notice yourself making conflict with yourself, like, shut up, brain. No need to create further conflict. Stupid. No, it's just like just noticing and just seeing what's going on. Naming is helpful for me, I find, to just go, oh, I'm planning. What does my breath feel like? Silence isn't something that you create. It's something that's present, that we can surrender into. And there is so much in silence that I rarely give myself the time to enjoy and discover and go more deeply into. I hesitate to tell you how much pleasure I've personally experienced from just breathing, because I think that it's easy to commodify meditation into some kind of program that, becomes just another kind of gym membership and another uh, sort of whip to flagellate oneself to improve more. Um, I think there's this idea of meditation that gets in the way of what I would assert is actually meditating, which isn't a thing that we do so much as what emerges when everything else falls away. And so rather than try to be this picture of perfect meditation, I think we can just give ourselves space to let awareness arise. Awareness to what? Well, let's start with ourselves. Our bodies and the tension in our bodies, the sensation, the noise between our ears. And if you find yourself more naturally drawn to the sounds around you, see if you can hear every sound around you simultaneously. You can notice if you have a preference of sounds and want to push away some that you don't like and only listen to ones that you do like. If you live in Bushwick, you may find yourself cringing as an alarm, some kind of siren goes by. Or a motorcycle. Whereas maybe you like the music that's playing in the background and want more of that. Just notice it. It's not wrong. Without any effort, you become aware of what is more vividly and see what is a noisy overlay of thought. Separating us from this moment right now. We're so quick to name our feelings, to feel anger or fear or pain. So quick to label, myself anyway. Boredom, fear, anxiety, desire. And from that naming, then quickly acting. Like the dog from Up, Doug. Squirrel. Oftentimes, it's not really even a squirrel, it's just movement. So I find simply noticing makes a big difference. Noticing I have feelings, noticing where I'm experiencing them and what they feel like. Maybe hearing the label fear and asking, what else do I feel? If I didn't call it fear, what else could I call it? It could be food poisoning. Feelings are wibbly and squishy, and I don't think I give myself as much time to listen to the sensation at full volume. Instead, compressing it the way that an MP3 file takes a sound wave and chops off the high and low frequencies to save space on a hard drive, reducing what is. For something I'm not sure about, for convenience, for speed. I think it's easy to spend a lifetime running away from fear and trying to solve for insecurity. And I've been discovering through listening what you might call meditating, but I would be wary of it because there are so many people using that word for so many different things. And I think that mindfulness is a word that you could use for the end, but I'm not sure that there's one path for everybody. I'm not sure there are set paths at all. But I think that I found a lot more than I ever expected in taking a seat. I think there's a Kendrick Lamar song about this. Okay, I'm going to shut my mouth up for like a few minutes. Let's give it 3 minutes of just total silence before we wrap up. Feeling out yourself on the inhale. Feeling your body, hearing your thinking. Listening to the sounds, whatever object you're present to, noticing it, including whatever else arises, and then surrender on the exhale, letting go of everything. I am. Surrender. Happy Self Care Sunday, everybody. It's a privilege to get to hang out and spend time and share space with y'all. And yeah, mm. Just gonna check in on this conversation here. Mm. It weirdly feels like we're little bugs in a little container when Zach is shifting us around. That's bizarre. Um, that's crazy to hear. Um, Tree Kid, feeling ill towards your old self or looking back poorly at the old you, I think is a very natural process. Um, I also think that, and this isn't to excuse or justify bad behavior, I think that learning about organic systems and just seeing how you can't separate a single plant from its environment, I think that there's something to seeing yourself, seeing the garden that you're growing in, and seeing sort of the cause, the yeah, just cause and effect, and anything that you feel embarrassed about in yourself, um, to see it as the culture that you're a part of as much as yourself as an individual, and that doesn't justify bad behavior. um, um, I'm certainly not looking to write anybody a hall pass for any kind of abuse or anything. Um, but I do think that there's value in, you know, I just find that it's helped me to learn from my mistakes, uh, to include a macro picture along with the micro picture, and to see myself, to take responsibility for myself, and to see how I am the culture that I'm a part of, so that when I'm in a room and there are people who disagree about whether toxic masculinity exists, I can speak from my personal experience of where the identity of being masculine and how I was conditioned to grow into the man that I am today, and just what television had to teach me versus my parents versus the synagogue my grandfather dragged me to, and just magazines that and advertisements that were staring at me everywhere I went. You know, especially for the topic of dysphoria, I think that it's no surprise that a lot of us feel shitty about our bodies and about how we look and how we, I think, yeah, I think we're trained to be dissatisfied with ourselves, to sell things, um, and and it goes deeper than that. There's more to talk about, and there are perspectives that I'm obviously painting with a broad brush and all of this, but yeah. Um, anyway, personal hygiene is a huge part of my mental health too, and lists originals. Um, hmm, hmm. Oh, Tree Kid, I so feel that looking back at photos. I think you're doing fine. You're not harming yourself or anyone. It's just hard to being comfortable with yourself sometimes. And I think it's worth inquiring into our view of ourselves to see where that harm is happening and to maybe find some freedom from it. And I've been finding a lot of peace and freedom, um, learning from the teachings of J. Krishnamurti and also he's not a guru or I don't know. Like I think that I hear the things that I hear in that in many things, and it's not limited to that. But there's just some really great videos uh, on YouTube that have given me some peace of mind. Oh boy, 6 minutes until this laptop dies, so maybe let's wrap this puppy up. Um, mm. Oh, Paul, this is so great to hear that this moment of calm thoughtfulness has been such a nice contrast to the past extremely successful and turbulent weeks. I'm so glad that they've been successful by any definition that brings you joy, and really, really celebrate the change of pace. Um, mm. And Alice CE, I really am glad to hear that you've been able to create this great way to end a not so great week, and it's a privilege to be a part of that. Uh, and everybody is welcome for Tiffany. Um, well, I think that's it for this week, or this month, rather. Um, oh man, there's always more to share. And I think that maybe in the future I'll just do less updates and maybe have another venue for that and just focus more on the sort of thoughtful mindfulness moment stuff and just jump into that. Oh, Benjamin Theodore, that's so sweet. I would really like to get back to a weekly version of this. I'm going to be doing some serious life planning and thinking over the next several months before I overcommit to anything that I can't fulfill on, because I think it's important to operate with integrity and something I'm committed to, and that means honoring my word and being consistent in a way, without becoming mechanical, which I think is a careful balance that I am not a master of. So I want to come back weekly. I'm thinking about changing some things like my personal Patreon page to a per thing. So that if there's ever a month that I don't do this, I don't charge for it. And maybe it's just every time I do a self-care Sunday, I charge people who want to support me in the effort. And maybe I'll just start monthly. And if we hit a certain threshold, I'll go to weekly and make it. I don't know. I don't want to overthink it. And as I've learned from my partners, primarily Kathleen and Charlotte, I overthink everything. Um, and I think there's some value to that, and there's also some value to stopping eventually. Um, and yeah, with that, I'm gonna stop this stream. I love you guys. It's just such a joy to have this forum, this community, this platform, this space. And I literally couldn't do it alone. So, pleasure to do it together. And with that, I'm going to press this here button. It's just gotten a lot easier if y'all know that pressing the button is something that has been a challenge, but now it's much easier that I'm using this software. And yeah, thank you, everybody. I'm just going to press this button now.